Okay, let's unpack this. You ever scroll through your feed, or maybe you're just walking past an advertisement and you get that subtle tug, like something's gently, or maybe not so gently, nudging you in a certain direction.
Hmm.
Or you see a news story that just feels, I don't know, designed to make you feel a specific way, to rally you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's everywhere once you start looking for it, isn't it? That constant hum of influence. It really shapes our modern cultural landscape.
It really does.
Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into something that fundamentally shapes our thoughts, our beliefs, even our actions, and often in ways we don't even realize. We're talking about propaganda.
Right.
Not just the old historical kind, but the everyday pervasive stuff that weaves into, the fabric of our communities, our identities.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, beyond just, say, old wartime posters, is how propaganda has evolved. It's become this constant, really sophisticated force.
Sophisticated how?
Well, think about political campaigns, targeted advertising.
Mhm.
It's subtly, almost invisibly influencing our decisions, all happening within this incredibly complex information environment we live in now. Our mission today, really, is to sort of pull back the curtain on these hidden dynamics
Okay.
and maybe challenge some common assumptions you might hold, and ultimately help you develop a much deeper cultural awareness of how information truly functions. We're going to try and approach this like cultural anthropologists,
Yeah.
carefully examining the patterns, the subtle cues that shape our collective reality.
Right, like social detective work almost. And to do that, we've pulled together a pretty fascinating stack of sources, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've got everything from ancient historical accounts looking at the very first seeds of this kind of persuasive communication,
Hmm.
to cutting-edge research in social psychology, and all the way to modern digital analyses that really unpack how things like social media algorithms play a role.
Yeah, it's a broad range.
It's a comprehensive look aiming to get right to the bottom of this whole phenomenon.
That's the plan.
So let's start with the basics, maybe. Because propaganda is such a loaded word, isn't it?
It really is.
When you hear it, you might immediately think bad, manipulation. But what does it truly mean at its core? What definition are we working with here?
That's a great starting point because you're right. The term carries a lot of baggage. The word itself actually comes from the Latin propagare.
Propaganda.
Yeah, which simply means to spread or to propagate. Originally, it was more about spreading religious beliefs, like missionary work.
Okay, so just spreading ideas.
Exactly. But over time, particularly from, say, the 17th century onwards, it evolved. It came to describe the systematic dissemination of information, ideas, or opinions, and crucially, with the specific intention to influence public opinion and behavior.
So systematic and intent. Those are the key bits.
Precisely. And that's critical to understand. It's a tool. Fundamentally, it's a mechanism.
Not the hammer.
Exactly like a hammer. A hammer isn't inherently good or bad, right? You can build a house, or it can be used destructively. Same with propaganda. It can be used for vital public health campaigns. Think about messages encouraging hand washing or vaccinations.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Or it can be used to manipulate populations during wartime, demonize enemies, that kind of thing. So the intent and the content, that's what determines its ethical dimension. But the mechanism itself, it's neutral.
That makes a lot of sense. And it immediately makes me wonder then, is this really a new thing? We often link it to, World War I posters or maybe the Cold War.
Right.
But you're saying the roots go way, way back, before mass media.
Oh, absolutely, way back. The history of propaganda is almost as old as civilization itself, really.
Wow. So how did that work without radio or TV?
Well, think about ancient rulers. They didn't have Twitter feeds, obviously, but they absolutely understood persuasion. They used massive monuments.
Yeah, but pyramids.
Pyramids, temples, statues. They put their faces on coins. They held huge public ceremonies, even theatrical performances, all designed to promote their power, their legitimacy, and instill loyalty in the population.
So visual and performative stuff.
Exactly. Take the Roman Empire, for instance. They were masters of it. Their architecture, the sheer scale of the Colosseum, the detailed carvings on Trajan's column.
Yeah.
That wasn't just about looking good. They were meticulously designed tools. They demonstrated imperial might. They subtly communicated messages of order, strength, the rightness of Roman rule.
Huh. I never thought of architecture that way.
It's powerful visual symbolism, grand performances reinforcing the social order, and all without needing to print a single leaflet. Their influence relied heavily on these visual cues and public spectacles.
Okay, so from Ancient stones and grand structures. It sounds like their reach was kind of limited by physical presence, though. You had to be there for to
Yeah,
stay the coin.
definitely limited by physical presence and geography.
So what changed? What allowed this kind of influence to really scale up, to reach almost everyone, almost simultaneously?
Well, that's where mass media enters the picture. That's the game changer.
Right.
The truly modern era of propaganda, the kind we sort of recognize now, it exploded with the development of mass communication technologies. Late 19th, early 20th centuries.
Like the printing press getting faster, radio.
Exactly. The printing press has been around for ages, obviously, but its capabilities were really harnessed then for mass dissemination. Then came radio, and later, television. These just opened up entirely new frontiers for influence. Imagine suddenly you could reach millions, maybe tens of millions, with carefully crafted messages, almost instantly.
That's a huge leap.
A massive leap. And World War I in particular was a crucial turning point.
How so?
Governments on all sides suddenly realized the unbelievable power of these new mediums. They universally mobilized public support for the war effort through extensive coordinated propaganda campaigns.
So posters, radio broadcasts.
Everything. Not just aimed at soldiers, but landing right in people's homes. It became crystal clear that shaping public opinion was just as vital, maybe even more vital sometimes, than winning battles on the ground.
It's kind of chilling, actually, how quickly that escalated. But, okay, what makes us humans so susceptible to this stuff?
Right?
It feels almost automatic sometimes, like our brains are just wired to accept certain messages without really thinking. This raises a really fascinating question about our own psychology, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And the reason propaganda works so well is because it masterfully leverages decades, centuries really, of understanding human nature. Now formalized in fields like social psychology, cognitive science, behavioral economics.
Okay.
At its core, it exploits what psychologists call cognitive biases.
Biases, like mental shortcuts.
Exactly. Our minds naturally take these shortcuts to make quick decisions, which is often efficient. But they frequently lead to systematic errors in thinking, predictable errors.
And propagandists know how to use those errors.
Oh, yeah. Whether they consciously know the academic terms or not, they are incredibly adept at exploiting these quirks. These little glitches in our thinking make their messages persuasive, sticky, and often incredibly memorable.
So let's talk about some of those powerful techniques then. The ones that really tap into our human nature, maybe our social instincts, our need to belong.
Okay.
What are some of the key plays in this psychological playbook? The things we should be aware of as we're navigating our, social reality today.
Well, one of the biggest, and you see this absolutely everywhere, is the bandwagon effect.
Jumping on the bandwagon.
Precisely. People have this deep-seated desire to belong, right? To be part of the majority, to avoid feeling isolated or left out.
Sure, that makes sense.
Propaganda exploits this by suggesting everyone is doing it, or that a certain view is just common sense. Think of it, a viral trend on social media could be a dance, a political hashtag, even buying a particular product. It subtly leverages that social desire to conform, makes you feel like you'll be left behind if you don't join in. It shapes group identity right there.
Yeah, FOMO, fear of missing out, weaponized.
Kind of, yeah. Then there's the classic fear appeal. Very primal.
How does that work?
It basically preys on our fundamental survival instincts. By creating or just amplifying fear about a particular threat, could be an enemy in wartime, could be a disease, an economic collapse, whatever. Propagandists can bypass our rational thought processes and motivate people to take swift, often unquestioning action.
So making people scared to make them do something.
Essentially, you see it in wartime posters demonizing the enemy, but also in public health campaigns emphasizing the dangers of smoking or not wearing a seatbelt. Fear is a powerful, immediate motivator.
Right. Okay, what else?
The us versus them dynamic. This is absolutely central to so much propaganda, and you see it shaping group identities profoundly today, especially online.
Creating tribes.
Exactly. It works by forging a really strong sense of in-group identity and loyalty. We're good, rational, virtuous, while simultaneously demonizing or maybe just caricaturing opponents or outsiders. They are misguided, dangerous, immoral.
Divisive.
Highly divisive. It taps straight into our tribal instincts, makes us far more likely to accept information that supports our side and just instantly reject anything that challenges it. Fosters division within communities, makes dialogue harder.
Okay, that one feels very familiar today.
It's pervasive. And then, we absolutely cannot overlook simple repetition.
Just saying it over and over.
Over and over and over again. This is linked to something called the illusory truth effect.
Illusory truth.
Yeah, research consistently shows that the more times people hear something, a statement, a claim, anything, the more likely they are to believe it's true over time, even if they initially knew it was false or suspected it was.
Wait, even if they knew it was false, that seems weird.
It does seem counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but familiarity breeds acceptance and eventually belief. The brain mistakes fluency ease of processing something familiar for truth. That's why you see propaganda messages, political slogans, advertising jingles hammered home endlessly across different platforms. They stick in your head, they start to feel familiar, and then they start to feel true.
Wow. That's that. Yeah. Okay. So repetition, fear, bandwagon, us versus them. What about the messenger? Does who delivers the message matter as much as the message itself?
Oh, absolutely. Critically important. The influence of authority figures is huge.
So trusting experts or leaders?
Or celebrities, religious figures, even social media influencers now. We seem naturally inclined, maybe we evolved, to trust and often obey those we perceive as authorities or figures we admire. So when propaganda seems to originate from these respected sources, it's far more likely to be accepted, maybe even acted upon, than the exact same message coming from someone unknown or, worse, discredited.
So the credibility, even if it's manufactured, gives the message weight.
Immense weight.
Mm.
And related to that is emotional manipulation. This is often incredibly sophisticated, very subtly deployed.
How so?
Well, propagandists use music, vivid imagery, carefully chosen language, all designed to evoke specific emotional responses that, again, bypass rational thought.
Like in political ads.
Exactly. Think about ads using rousing music, heartwarming, or maybe scary images, but very little concrete policy information. They're appealing directly to emotions like anger, pride, hope, fear, nostalgia, making people more receptive to the message's conclusion and less likely to critically question the facts or lack thereof.
That's really insightful. So much of this happens beneath our conscious radar, doesn't it?
A huge amount.
And when you talk about language and visuals, it just brings to mind how powerful a single word or a single image can be. It's like a shortcut to a feeling or an idea.
Exactly right. The strategic use of language and visuals is incredibly potent. Word choice can dramatically affect perception.
Like euphemisms.
Euphemisms are a classic example, making unpleasant realities seem more palatable. Think collateral damage instead of civilian deaths, or enhanced interrogation instead of torture.
Right, softens the blow.
Or loaded language words packed with emotion that frame an issue before any facts are presented. And then there are weasel words. Yeah, vague or ambiguous terms that make claims seem stronger or more definitive than they really are. Like when an ad says a product helps support something or results may vary. It sounds good, but promises very little.
Ah, okay. I see those everywhere.
And visually, images communicate powerful messages almost instantaneously, often bypassing conscious analysis entirely. Symbols, colors, metaphors, they're used to create strong associations, trigger emotional responses, often connecting deeply with cultural identity, all supporting the propagandist's goals.
It's incredible how these, well, ancient psychological levers still work so effectively. But given how much technology has changed everything, particularly with the rise of the internet, social media, how has the digital age transformed how these techniques are deployed? It feels like we're constantly bombarded now, information overload.
You're absolutely right. The digital age hasn't necessarily invented new psychological tricks,
Right.
but it has fundamentally reshaped the landscape. It presents both new challenges and, frankly, terrifying new opportunities for propagandists. Well, social media platforms, almost inadvertently, have created what we call echo chambers and filter bubbles.
Right, where you only see stuff you already agree with.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
You're increasingly exposed primarily to information that confirms your existing beliefs, your existing tribal affiliations, alternative viewpoints. They just get filtered out by the algorithm or by your own social curation.
Making people more vulnerable.
Far more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Your exposure to critical analysis or diverse perspectives gets severely limited. It effectively reinforces a single narrative within your digital community, your online tribe. And this profoundly impacts how identities are formed and reinforced online.
And what about the algorithms themselves? They almost seem to have a mind of their own, guiding what we see, curating our reality for us.
The role of algorithms is one of the most, I think, concerning developments in modern propaganda. These algorithms, they're designed primarily for one thing.
Yeah.
Maximizing user engagement, keeping you on the platform longer.
Right. More clicks, more ad revenue.
Exactly. And what drives engagement? Strong emotional responses, outrage, fear, intense loyalty, even humor sometimes, but often the negative emotions. So algorithms often inadvertently amplify content designed to provoke those strong reactions, which means propaganda tailored to trigger outrage or fear often gets way more reach simply because it performs well according to the platform's own metrics.
So the platform itself becomes a tool for spreading the most inflammatory stuff.
It creates a very fertile ground for it. And this also raises a huge question about how we verify what we see online.
Fake news, disinformation.
Exactly. That rapid spread of fake news, disinformation, misinformation, it represents a new, particularly virulent form of propaganda that just thrives in this digital ecosystem.
Because it spreads so fast.
The sheer speed and the global reach are unprecedented.
Ah.
False information can literally circle the globe, take root in people's minds, become common knowledge in certain groups, often before fact-checkers can even catch up, let alone correct it effectively.
And people can hide behind fake accounts.
That too. The relative anonymity online makes it much easier for propagandists, whether state actors or individuals, to operate without being held accountable. It really blurs the lines of responsibility and truth.
And it feels like it's only getting more sophisticated, right? I mean, AI, deepfakes, that stuff sounds like science fiction, but it's here now.
It is absolutely here now and developing rapidly. Artificial intelligence, deepfake technology, other forms of synthetic media, they're making it exponentially harder to distinguish truth from fabrication.
Like fake videos of politicians.
Imagine an incredibly realistic but entirely fake video of a political leader saying something outrageous they never said, or a seemingly authentic video of a riot or an event that simply never occurred.
That's terrifying.
It creates a profound challenge for discerning basic reality. And it brings up the crucial but also really controversial role of the social media companies themselves.
What they choose to take down or leave up.
Exactly. They hold immense power in moderating or amplifying information. And they face enormous pressure from governments, users, advertisers, often with completely conflicting agendas about what constitutes acceptable speech or harmful content. It's a minefield.
So, if this is the landscape, algorithms amplifying emotion, deepfakes looming, echo chambers reinforcing bias, what does all this mean for us, for society? For, the very fabric of how we understand truth and interact as communities.
Well, the psychological impact on individuals and societies can be really profound. It shapes our identities, how we relate to our communities, how we see the world.
How so?
Think about cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable mental stress when you hold contradictory ideas or when new information clashes violently with a deeply held belief, maybe one reinforced by propaganda.
Right, that uncomfortable feeling.
People try to resolve that discomfort, sometimes through denial, just refusing to accept the conflicting information. Sometimes through rationalization, finding ways to justify their original belief. Or sometimes, paradoxically, by developing even more extreme views, doubling down on their convictions to eliminate the dissonance.
So it makes changing minds or even challenging assumptions really hard.
Incredibly difficult,
Yeah.
especially when those assumptions are tied to cultural identity or group belonging. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, think about democracy.
Yeah.
A functioning democracy fundamentally relies on an informed citizenry. People need to be able to make rational decisions based on reasonably accurate information.
Sure.
But when propaganda systematically undermines the quality of that information, when it manipulates public discourse, floods the zone with noise, it directly threatens democratic institutions. It fragments communities, erodes trust in media, in government, even in each other.
That feels like where we are sometimes.
It's a serious challenge.
Yeah.
And there's also the international dimension, information warfare.
Governments using propaganda against other countries.
Absolutely. Actively using it to influence public opinion abroad, maybe destabilize regions, interfere in elections. It's a major tool of foreign policy for some actors.
Okay. And what about closer to home? Like advertising. Is that propaganda?
That's a great question. Commercial advertising is arguably a powerful, pervasive form of what you might call cultural propaganda.
What do you mean?
Well, it doesn't just sell products. It subtly shapes our values, our aspirations, our lifestyles. What we collectively consider beautiful, successful, desirable, it sets norms.
Creating a consumer culture.
Precisely. And this is especially impactful on children and young people. They often have less developed critical thinking skills, they spend a lot of time online, and they're actively forming their identities. Advertising and influencer culture profoundly shape their view of the world and their place in it.
This all sounds, well, a bit daunting, frankly. Overwhelming, even.
It can feel that way.
So, what can we do about it? How do we, as individuals trying to navigate this crazy information environment, how do we build resilience? How do we help maintain some kind of clear sense of reality within our own lives and communities?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Mm.
And there's no single magic bullet, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But the most crucial element, arguably, is education.
Teaching people about this stuff.
Specifically, widespread implementation of media literacy and critical thinking skills, starting young. Media literacy helps you actively recognize propaganda techniques, learn how to evaluate sources rigorously, think critically about the messages you encounter rather than just passively absorbing them.
But does that happen much now?
Unfortunately, it's often inadequate or even entirely absent in many educational systems. And that's a major gap in our collective defense against manipulation.
Okay, so education is key. What else? Individually.
Building psychological resilience, that ability to resist manipulation. And that comes partly from deliberately exposing yourself to diverse viewpoints, even ones you disagree with, stepping outside the echo chamber.
Easier said than done sometimes.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
And actively engaging your critical thinking faculties, asking questions. Who created this message? Why? What techniques are they using? What's left out? Fact-checking is also important, of course, but we need to be aware of its limitations.
Like the backfire effect.
Exactly. Research shows that sometimes when you directly correct someone's false belief, especially if it's tied to their identity, they can actually become more committed to it. They dig in their heels.
Wow. So correcting people can make it worse.
It can. It's
Yeah.
complex. And then there's the whole complicated relationship with free speech. Essential for democracy, yes. But it also inevitably creates space for propaganda to spread. Finding that balance is a constant societal challenge.
So it's an ongoing process, developing our mental toolkit.
Exactly. Continuously developing our mental toolkit to navigate this world, it requires ongoing vigilance and effort.
Okay. So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for us? We've journeyed through the history, the psychology of propaganda, from ancient monuments right up to AI-driven algorithms. We've seen it's way more than just obvious posters or ads. It's deeply woven into our social fabric,
It really is.
often using our own psychology, our desire for community, our fears kind of against us, understanding its history, its methods, its modern forms. That really feels like the crucial first step, doesn't it?
The foundation.
Just being aware of how this incredibly complex information landscape we all live in actually operates.
And this raises, I think, an important question for you, for everyone listening. How can you actively apply this awareness? Now that you know a bit more about the techniques, the motivations, how can you apply that to your daily information consumption?
Yeah.
Recognizing these patterns isn't just, an academic exercise. It's absolutely essential for being an informed, resilient citizen, for making discerning choices in a world just saturated with influence, and frankly, for helping foster a more truthful, more robust, shared social reality.
So here's something to maybe chew on as you go about your week, as you scroll your feeds, as you watch the news, as you just observe the subtle currents of information swirling around you. In an age where truth can be manufactured with increasing ease, and where our digital identities are so heavily shaped by the information we consume and share, what new responsibilities do we as individuals hold, not just in discerning reality for ourselves, but in actively shaping a healthier, maybe more transparent information environment for the future, for the next generation?